Alrighty, so let's take a look at these Math 3, kind of go through this module together, take these notes. So you should have that 8.5 and 8.6, and sorry they're so small, just trying to save paper here. But we're going to go through these together. I'll have you work on some of it alone for a while, and then kind of talk through these, then you'll have time to work on the homework, and then when you come back to class we can talk more about this with any questions you guys have, okay? So let's get going. So this is the first page we're taking a look at. So you can kind of follow along with me. So let's start from right there. You've probably heard it many times before. Survey results show that 54% of Americans believe that, and then fill in the blank. You know, you're sure that you didn't participate in the survey, neither did anyone you know, and yet the researchers claim that the survey represents the beliefs of all Americans. How can this be possible? In the next few tasks, we'll explore how statistics allow us to draw conclusions about an entire group without actually working with the entire group. Sometimes the results make sense, and other times you might think that they just can't be right. We will learn how to make judgments about statistical studies based on the methods that have been used. So first we need to get our terms straight. So we have three. We have, when we talk about the entire group, so all the Americans, that's the population. When we just talk about selecting some of those that we hope represent the entire group, that is what we call a sample. And what we want to know is the parameter of interest. So let's kind of take a look at these first two. So, and you may want to pause it and try to figure out what the population, what the sample, what the parameter of interest is. So take a second, kind of read through that, and try to figure those out, then we'll talk about them. So if you could pause the video right here, that would be great. Okay, so we take a look at number one. So a grocery store wants to know the average number of items that shoppers purchase in each visit to the store. They decide to count the items in the cart of every 20th person through the check stand. So the population would be the shoppers, right? That are purchasing. You know, sometimes you can get pretty specific with shoppers' words. The sample would be every 20th person, okay? Because they're not going through everybody, every 20th shopper. And what do they want to know? They want to know the average number of items they purchase. So, average number of items purchased. Okay, let's take a look at another one. A team of biologists, I'm sure there should have been an S there, want to know the average weight of fish in a lake. They decide to drop a net and measure all the fish caught in 3 different locations in the lake. So, what would be the population? It would be the fish, right? Okay. The going back up here, the sample for that would be, you know, the fish caught in the nets, the 3 times, right? And the parameter of interest would be that their average weight. Okay, they want to know what the weight is, right? Yeah, the average weight of fish. Okay, so there's kind of some ideas about that. Now, question 3 has a bunch of these. So that's A through G on that page, over to, you know, H through N, clear to P. Okay, so we're going from here all the way through these others, back up to A. Okay, and it says there are a lot of different ways that a sample can be chosen from a population. So what you're going to do is you guys are going to pause the video, and you're going to take probably a good 10 minutes, maybe even 15, because you have to read through all of these, so maybe even 20. Let's go with 20 minutes. So give them 20 minutes. You guys are going to read this. You can work together. And I want you guys to try to figure out which groups these would fit into. How many different categories? 6 categories, right? Can you categorize these into 6 different categories and put whichever ones you want to think through? Okay? So that's what you guys need to do right now. So taking a look at all of these, you've got 6 categories. Okay? And you're looking at all the information here and trying to figure out where they all would belong. Okay? So you've got about 20 minutes, and if you guys need some more time, by all means have the substitute pause it for longer. This is to help you guys out. Okay, so get ready and go on that. Alright, so you guys should have thought through that. So we had 6 categories. Okay, and unfortunately we can't kind of talk too much about it because I'm recording a video and you guys aren't here to talk to me about it. But these are kind of, hopefully you got them in these same categories, but you probably didn't know the types of categories there were. So the first type is what we call the simple random sample. Okay, the ones that deal with this would be like problem A, G, and L. Okay, so let's take a look at those. A, G, and L. So A says you are in charge of a school activity. You want to know what activities students would prefer to participate in during the school year. You decide to put the name of each student into the school into a big bowl. You draw 100 names and ask those students to respond to the survey about the activities they prefer. So it's randomized, and there's nothing else going into that. Very simple random. Okay. G was another one that fits in. We'll call this category 1. You're in charge of school activities. You want to know what activities students would prefer to participate in. You make a lot of copies of the survey about the activities that students prefer, and you put them on a table outside the cafeteria. Students can choose to take the survey and drop their responses into a big box on the table. So it's randomized about who's going to take it. Okay, and L, a restaurant owner wants to find out the average number of dishes ordered at each table served on Friday evenings, their busiest time. She decides to collect and analyze every 5th receipt of the night, starting at 6 p.m. So that 5th receipt, just random, very simple, randomized problems. Okay, so that's our number 1. Our number 2 is called a systematic random sample, and these ones are B, K, and M. So let's take a look back at these ones. Oops, too far. So B. This is group 2. You are in charge of school activities. You want to know what activities students would prefer to participate in during the school year. You assign each student in the school a number. You randomly select a starting number among the first 10 numbers and then select every 10th student in the list from that point forward. So this one, there's a more systematic approach to it. Okay? It's not just random, which honestly, I think if we looked at L could kind of fit into this category too, right? Because it's got some sort of system. It's still pretty random, but there's that systematic approach to it. Alright, let's take a look at K. Okay, shopping mall like to know the average amount that shoppers spend during their visit. They post 2 survey takers near one of the exits who ask shoppers to tell them what they spent as they leave the mall. Okay, so they're systematically taking a look at these. And honestly though, now that I'm looking at this, I'd almost put K as number 1 and L as number 2. Wouldn't that make more sense? Because L, you're doing it every 5th. K, are they asking every person, or are they not? Are the people shutting them down? To me that kind of looks like more like that. Okay, now M would be number 2, so imagine all these boxes are people and you just randomly are picking them out. Okay, you've got that system and you're picking, at least 1, sometimes 2, and taking a look at that. Okay, so that's our systematic random sample. And we switched K and L because I didn't like the way they had done it. Okay, 3 is what we call a stratified random sample. And that we've got C, I, and O. So we take a look at C. So school activities again, so let's see, you use roles from the homeroom class. You put all the names from one class into a bowl and draw 2 names from each class. You go through each homeroom class drawing 2 names, so you ask the students to respond. So it's stratified because you are, separating the groups from each other That's kind of what you're looking at here. Alright, so we've got that one because you're splitting them up into the classes, giving them that. Now I, let's take a look at I. So I would be number 3. So average numbers that they spend playing video games. You select 20 high schools in the state, and then ask all the seniors at those 20 high schools. Okay, so once again you're picking, a certain group, and then from that group picking some in there. Okay, and the last one, O. Okay, so once again, you've got that whole group that you're choosing from and taking a look at them. Okay, alright. Now number 4, we've got cluster, random, which would be D, H, and N. Okay, so D right here. You're in charge of the school activities, so you go to each homeroom class, and you are then taking every student from those classes. Okay, so that's kind of the idea here. H. Okay, so, and then what was the last one? N. And down to N. Alright, now I'm looking at this, guys, honestly, and these things aren't lining up the right way to me. Hopefully they aren't to you guys either. Okay, it's just some of these aren't making sense of how they're showing up, are they? So why don't we do it this way? Okay. No, I was going basically off. They had a cheat sheet to use along with this that I was looking at, but it doesn't seem like it's done very well because I think a lot of these aren't making much sense to me. Okay, so we've got a simple random sample where it doesn't really matter. You're just randomly picking people. Systematic would be that there's some sort of system in place to pick every certain people. Okay, a stratified is different because, so that stratified, and I think I stopped at saying, but oh, wow, wasn't expecting that. Sorry about that. Apparently it's a rough day for me trying to make a video. But the stratified, as I was starting to talk about, the stratified is dealing with, you kind of separate people into different types and then choose from those groups. So like stratified one way would be between boys and girls. Okay, instead of just lumping boys and girls together, we separate them and then we choose a certain amount from each group. Okay, that's kind of what stratified. Whereas a cluster random sample, you're picking just the groups. You have them grouped somehow, and then you just pick a whole group. You randomly choose a group. Whereas stratified, you set them up differently and then choose from random pieces of that. Okay. The other two we have are a convenience sample and a volunteer. A convenience sample is essentially just who's willing to, who's in the area that can do it. Okay. Where volunteer is people that choose to do it. Okay, so those are the 6 we're taking. So let's go one by one, and I feel much better doing it this way. Looking at what we think they are. Okay, so A, so you just randomly draw, and that's definitely a simple random sample. Okay, B, so you started at choosing randomly out of this first group, and then from there every 10 students. So that would be a systematic random sample. Okay, that would be number 2, which I forgot the color, so I'm just putting them all in the same color. Okay, C, you're in charge of the school activities once again. So you use the roles from each class. You put all the names from one class in a bowl and then draw 2 names. This would be the stratified. So that is 3. Okay, D, you're in charge of those Students who would prefer to participate, you get the homeroom classes and select 5 classes. See the difference between C and D? This one is this cluster because you're picking people in a whole class. This one you're picking a few out of each class. So it's stratified. Okay, E, you're in charge again. You stand in the cafeteria during your lunch break and ask students if they want to participate. So that's a convenience. That's 5 because they want to participate. You know, if they say no, they're not included in the survey. F, let's see. You get the roles from the class. You put it in a bowl and draw 2 names from each. And that one is that the same as this other one? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Guess I should have proofread this, huh? Okay, G. Make copies and put them on. Oh, I bet that's what happened. I bet they accidentally copied and pasted this, and this one should be up in F, and they were off on all the ones. That's probably what happened. Yeah, so this one would be a volunteer. That's number 6, because they're choosing to do it. You're not going out to ask them, they actually come if they want to take the survey. Whereas in E, you are physically asking the students. That's more of a convenience. Okay, so now H. So, you are interested in finding out the percentage of residents in the city that have experienced a robbery. You look at the property records. You assign each resident a number. You use a random number generator to give you a list of numbers. Then you contact the residents to ask. Okay, so that's a, that could be a simple, but I think it would be more of a systematic because you're using that random number generator. You're giving each one a number instead of, just like throwing a dart at them. So I'd probably call that systematic, number 2. Okay, the I, you randomly select 20 high schools and all the seniors. Okay, to me that's that cluster because you're doing all the seniors. So that's a 4. J, so auto analyst conducting a satisfaction. They get a sampling of new car buyers, and each has a certain amount, and they choose 100 from each brand. Okay, that's the stratified. Because you've got them separated, and from each group you're choosing a certain amount. Whereas this one you're choosing the whole group of those. Okay, K, a shopping mall management company would like to know the average amount the shopper. They post 2 survey takers. This would be a convenience. This is 5 because you got people out there conveniently asking those that are leaving the mall. Okay, L, that was the every 5th receipt at night. That's one of those systematics. Okay. M, hopefully you can see that's pretty random, so that'd be a simple random. And see, now notice how it's pretty much the same distance away, isn't it? Okay, so that would be systematic, some sort of system to it. Okay, O and P. O, you put them into separate groups, but you're doing the whole group. That's the cluster. That's 4. Whereas this one, you've separated them into different groups, but you're randomly picking out of that. That's the stratified 3. Okay? So, then question 4. I want you to jot down what you think are some advantages and disadvantages. And once again, these are the 6 types we're talking about. Okay? And then we will talk about that when I get back. Okay? I want to see what you guys have to say about that. Alright? So, question number 5. A person you know owns a small theater that shows local dramatic productions. She wants to know the average age of the people that buy tickets to see the shows so that she can better select which plays to stage. Explain to the owner why selecting the first 20 people that arrive for the show may not be a representative sample, and describe a process. So I think on all 3 of these, I want you to answer these on a separate sheet of paper and then hand in, or on this piece of paper and hand in, and then when I get back, we'll get them out of the box and we can talk about them. Okay? So you can do that after we're done with the next part. Alright. So now let's look at this one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about different types of ways that you can gather data, information. Okay, so you've got surveys, observational studies, and experiments. Surveys, usually want to know how people feel, what their preferences are, some just easy data. Observational, somebody's watching the behavior, trying to see what's going on. Experiment is where you try to manipulate the variables to determine cause and effect. Okay? So, let's take a look at this. Okay, and looking over this and thinking about it, once again, I think we need to spend some time talking about this stuff because I don't want to just present it to you guys. So I want you to go through this. Okay, question 1, think about the different information you'd get and possible advantages and disadvantages. Okay, all the rest, did I miss out on a page? I might have. Alright, so just jumping into this. So you're going to describe what type of sample it is and if it's representative of the population. If the information you gather can be applied to everybody. So spend the rest of the class period, or not the rest, but some of it, answering all of those questions, 8 to 13. On this paper, hand it in so that we'll have it in class next time. You can get the homework and just keep working on the homework, okay? So from there, we'll talk more about this stuff. Just I think we can have a good discussion next class period and see what's going on. Alright, so sorry that there was some issues with this, but it didn't seem to turn out the way I was hoping it would. And we will talk about it in class, so make sure you get that, answer all those questions, hand it in, okay, then, get and work on homework. And then when I get back on Thursday, we can spend some time talking about all this information and going from there. Alrighty? Well, good luck to you guys.